Hello, I'm Diana Oxley, and I'm at the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory in Portland, Oregon. I'm interviewing Stephen Duch, the principal of Hillcrest High School in Queens, New York. Hello, Steve. Good to talk. In this interview segment, what we're doing is taking a step back and reflecting on the efforts that you've been engaged in there for the last couple of years, all of these dramatic reorganization efforts that you've pursued, and to get a bird's eye perspective of really what's been accomplished there, what's really changed, what lessons can you draw from this that you'd like to share with others who would attempt such an ambitious set of reforms, and what are your next steps? So that's what we're going for in this interview. And I wonder if you would pick up on something you said in the first interview, where you were explaining why you took this very sort of quick approach to reorganization. That is, you opted in your school to make the switch over from comprehensive high school to 9 smaller learning communities, to do that almost overnight, as it were, to sort of endure intensive pain. But maybe the pain is intensive, but you get over it quickly. Could you tell us, what was the pain? What caused the pain, and how were you able to move beyond it quickly, as you did?
Hey, as I had mentioned before, it really was a painful situation during that 6-month transition phase, and certainly during the first year of the small learning communities for the entire Hillcrest staff community. But I do put the emphasis on staff community. There was not pain for the students. There was tremendous pain for the adults. And when you do some deep thinking about it, I think part of it is because there was a systematic problem within the school community. There was not enough of personalization. There was not enough of connection between adult and student in the building. And there was not enough of time spent on building adult capacity within the building. So the students probably were in moderate pain for many, many years at Hillcrest High School. But now the focus became that we were going to make significant change to change the environment for our students. And what really had to change were the activities and the responsibilities of the adults in the building. Adults had to change locations. Adults had to change job responsibilities. Adults had to learn a lot of new material. And I think that's why that was so painful during those first 6 months. Adults do not adapt very easily to change. We can look at change as really a sign of growth, but the opportunities for growth were really not present within this school environment before that. So we did have people that just found the transformation overwhelming. The moving from one office to another, the moving of space from one space to another, the sharing of space in different ways was a very, very serious piece for adults to deal with. I think in one way, though, making the transition within 1 year really did not exacerbate this situation over years. Had we done a phase-in model, we would have been in the 4th phase of that phase-in model this springtime, where the focus on getting all of the structural pieces in place have long been established now, that we could really focus in on the deep work of changing instruction in the classroom. Had we utilized the phase-in model, we still would have been phasing in the last phase of the transformation for September of 2009. So I think we made the right decision at that point, and I think that the overwhelming majority of the adults in the building survived a very traumatic 6-month experience. And I think if you did an anonymous survey of the staff and asked them if they wanted to go back to what the school was like in June of 2006, now in June of 2009, overwhelmingly they would say that the school is a much better place to teach in and a much better place for students to learn in. And if we wanted to say what those changes were, there's definitely an increased personalization with the students and for the students. There's an increased collaboration amongst the staff. Decisions are now being made by teachers. In the past, in the structure that was in this school, assistant principals did the programming of the school, and based on positional power, they had a lot of decision-making power in what classes teachers taught, what schedule they were on, and what space in the building they taught their classes in. Our model now is that the teachers collaborate with their director, co-directors, and teachers commonly commonly schedule themselves for their classes in the fall, which creates a whole sense of buy-in and responsibility, and that your opinions are being valued, and you're being asked what you feel that you can do best in an organization. There's an increased, though, accountability. Along with decision-making and collaboration, there is an increased sense of accountability that teachers do realize that their data is really looked at very carefully, and that if students are not succeeding in their classrooms, they're being asked why, and they're being asked how we can support them in order for students to be successful in those classes. And of course, the assistant principals have a greater opportunity to look at alignment of curriculum across areas. They're beginning to realize the challenges of working across curriculum areas with each other, and have the opportunity to do that. I think also we've become into a data-driven school, and we have the opportunities that the Department of Education provides for us in utilizing data, but we've been able to refine that data for our own school and really begin to granulate the data and looking at the success of our small learning communities. One of the things that we've done this year in year 3 of the SLC phase is having meetings with key personnel in the building, myself, the assistant principal in charge of guidance, the director, the guidance counselor, the parent coordinator, looking at various cohorts of students and looking to see what progress they're making in accumulating credit and accumulating Regents credit as well within New York State of the state standards. And making strategic plans for those students and how to support them within the school, and then having some accountability checkbacks to see if they're succeeding. It wasn't really possible in the structure of 3,400 students. It is very possible to do it in structures of 450 students or less. There's also the continued use of that data by the teachers to begin to look at that data and be able to determine how they can differentiate in their classrooms. I think some of the successes that we've seen in being able to do this is that transparency is really the key. You can't make this change if you're working within a vacuum. When you're making the major structural changes that we have, all constituencies have to be brought in, and all constituencies have to understand why the specific changes are being made. It's very important to collaborate. It's very important to get all ideas, but along with that collaboration, there has to be some meaningful empowerment, specifically empowerment of the teaching staff within the school so that they have a stake, that they realize that they are major stakeholders within the building. There has to be strong, meaningful goals. We're in the process now of aligning our goals for next year, and the structure that we're using to align for these goals is we're going to be having campus-wide 5 goals for 2009-2010. Those goals will become the goals of our comprehensive education plan. Those goals will become my personal goals. Those will be the goals of the assistant principal supervision. Teachers and the assistant principal supervisions will be developing their goals for each other by the end of this June, and ultimately in September, students will be developing goals as well. But the goals will be all aligned with the 5 campus-wide goals for the year. And realizing that data tracking is very important, to be able to see where you're succeeding and where you're failing, and to be able to understand that failure is not always a negative thing, but that you can learn many things from a failed experiment to be able to move things along. And of course, we do have plenty of work left for us, and our next steps really are to continue the momentum, to continue to attract the types of staff members like you've had the opportunity to meet here today, to be able to continue to build their capacity, provide opportunities for them to get better at what they do, for us to all begin to be able to deepen the analysis of our results, and to be able to refine what we've discovered through the analysis, so that more students continue to build their own personal capacity.
So the work of improvement goes on, the learning about what it takes and what works goes on. One thing that really comes across to me, though, here is that because you moved to make the structural changes so quickly, the staff could see very quickly, what rewards could be reaped from it. So it strikes me that one of the real benefits of moving quickly on restructuring is that, in a climate of where there is teacher resistance, when you're not fully in control of what's happening, there can be resistance and some unwillingness maybe even to give this a chance. But once you see the changes that are made, once you begin to see students attaching or getting more serious about their schoolwork, coming more often, I would think that all of the changes that they had to make would bring their own rewards. And that's one of the big gains with this very, swift approach to transformation. Is that accurate, do you think?
I would agree 100%. If you even look at something structural, we made a structural change in the delegation of space, classroom space, office space, all sorts of space 4 years ago. Had we done a phase-in model, there still would have been the last year of phase-out Hillcrest that was here this year. There would have still been focusing in on, well, what are we going to do with space now that we have the full campus available to us for SLCs? Are we going to move everybody's space again? It's something that was done, and within a short period of time, people began to accept the spaces that the SLCs have claimed to be their own. They've been able to create identity within that specific space, and with the specific physical space, began to build that sense of community within that space, how each individual space is used. One of the things that we've done campus-wide in the last couple of weeks is we now have a major focus on college readiness from 9th through 12th grade, that students understand from 9th grade that everything that they do prepares them for college. What we did over the spring break was we renamed all of the corridors in our school after major universities across the nation. And rather than saying, meet me near such and such a room in a short period of time, we hope that people will say, meet me at the intersection of Georgetown and Columbia. And it's making students aware at a very young age that this is something that they can aspire to. What the SLCs have begun to do already with that idea is say, well, we're going to rename our classrooms. Our classrooms are going to have college names as well. So it's just the sense of people saying across campus, yes, we are a college-bound school. When kids come in the 9th grade, we have to prepare them for entering college, and everything that we do has to really ensure that they are college ready. So these are things that we can institute campus-wide, but then each small learning community begins to customize it to the needs of the specific students that are part of their small learning community.
Yeah, you described very effectively that the evolution of the development of the small learning communities. I mean, first, you very quickly create a personalized environment in which teachers and students are connecting and getting to know each other better. But then the work continues, and now you're working to create a culture of college readiness, and where kids are just literally swimming in this environment of looking forward to college and what their opportunities are once high school is finished.
Because I think one of the things that is our next challenge is we're happy to be able to say that we are a college-bound community, and we were very happy that out of our graduating class last year, 98% entered colleges last September, and 85% entered four-year colleges. But our work really continues in knowing how well they did when they went to the college or university level. How well prepared were they? How many of them are still attending college that may have started in September? And what do we need to do to change what we're doing here to make them more successful when they enter the next phase of their life? So I think that's really part of what our next steps are by making that continued focus.
Very good, and we wish you luck with your continued efforts. Thanks very much for sharing Hillcrest's experience.
Thank you for your time.